How often do we find ourselves pouring time, energy, and emotions into people who barely acknowledge our worth? It's a painful cycle, yet one that feels so hard to escape. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." This quote holds a profound truth. The power to protect our peace lies entirely within us. In this video, we're diving into 5 Stoic-inspired ways to stop caring about those who don't value you. By the end, you'll learn how to reclaim your energy, sharpen your focus, and embrace a mindset that leaves no room for unnecessary suffering. So if you're ready to discover the freedom that comes from choosing your own response, let's get started. One of the foundational lessons in Stoicism is understanding the division between what is and isn't within your control. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught this concept in his handbook, the Enchiridion, emphasizing that nearly all of our unnecessary suffering comes from trying to control things that are, by their very nature, outside of our influence. He writes, "Some things are up to us and some things are not up to us." It seems simple, doesn't it? Yet how many times do we exhaust ourselves trying to win the approval of someone who doesn't see our worth or change the behavior of someone who isn't willing to change? Let's break this down. At its core, Stoicism invites us to divide the world into 2 categories: external factors and internal factors. External factors are the things we can't control: other people's opinions, actions, or emotions. Internal factors, on the other hand, are squarely within our control. They're things like our thoughts, our beliefs, and how we choose to respond to life's challenges. Here's the key: when you spend your energy obsessing over external factors, you're giving away your power. But when you focus on what's internal, you reclaim it. Let's apply this to caring about people who don't value you. Their decisions, their treatment of you, and even their opinions fall into the category of external factors. No matter what you do, you cannot force someone to respect you, appreciate you, or treat you the way you deserve to be treated. And here's where Epictetus' wisdom becomes liberating. If you understand deeply that you can't control their actions, why waste your emotional energy trying to? Why tie your happiness, your peace, or your self-worth to something you have no power over? Imagine you're holding a rope in a tug of war. On the other side is this person who doesn't value you. They may be pulling hard, or maybe they don't even notice they're holding the rope at all. But the harder you pull, the more exhausted you become. Stoicism teaches us to simply let go of the rope. Stop struggling. Stop trying to control what's outside of your sphere of influence. By doing this, you free yourself from the emotional back and forth and can redirect your focus to something you have control over: your own well-being. This doesn't mean you have to accept poor treatment or settle for less than you deserve. Quite the opposite. Recognizing what you can and cannot control gives you clarity to make empowering decisions. When you stop spending your energy on someone who doesn't value you, you make space for people and experiences that truly align with your worth. Ask yourself this: why give someone else the keys to your emotional state? Why let them determine your happiness or self-respect? The truth is, you can't control how others see you, but you can absolutely decide how much of your energy they take from you, and the answer doesn't have to be all of it. Ultimately, mastering this distinction between external and internal factors is the first step to finding peace in situations where you feel undervalued. As Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. So start asking yourself, am I investing too much energy in something I have no control over? If the answer is yes, then it's time to let go of what isn't yours to carry. With this understanding, you'll find that emotional freedom is closer than you think. Time is perhaps our most precious and irreplaceable resource. Unlike money, possessions, or even relationships, time is something we can never get back once it's spent. The Stoics often emphasize this truth, urging us to treat time with the respect it deserves. In his famous work on the shortness of life, Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested. Now, think about that for a moment. How much of your time have you invested wisely, and how much of it has been wasted on people who don't see your worth? It's easy to fall into the trap of giving too much of yourself to people who don't reciprocate your efforts. Maybe it's that friend who only calls when they need something, or the colleague who takes but never gives back. Or perhaps it's someone closer to you, a partner, a family member whose actions consistently show they don't value your contributions. Each time you dwell on their lack of appreciation, try to win their approval, or overextend yourself to meet their needs, you are spending your most finite resource, your time. For the Stoics, this is not just an inconvenience, it's a critical error in judgment. Every moment we direct towards someone who doesn't value us is a moment we've stolen from someone who does, or worse, from ourselves. Imagine the possibilities if you redirected that energy. You could use that time to pursue personal growth, deepen relationships with those who genuinely care, or simply enjoy life in the way that fulfills you most. The Stoics would tell you that no moment should be taken for granted. Life is too fleeting for that. To bring this idea into perspective, think about your day-to-day interactions. How often do you say yes to things that drain you just to avoid conflict or rejection? How often do you prioritize people who wouldn't do the same for you? Now consider what would happen if you made a conscious decision to protect your time with the same care you would give to protecting your most valuable possession. Because in truth, your time is your most valuable possession. Here's an example. Imagine you're holding a bag of gold coins. Each coin represents an hour of your life. Would you freely hand out those coins to someone who doesn't appreciate their value, who tosses them aside without a second thought? Or would you save them to spend on something worthwhile, on people and pursuits that enrich your life? Your time is no different. Every day you're handing out those coins hour by hour. The question is, are you spending them wisely? One way to start valuing your time more is by setting boundaries. The Stoics were great advocates of self-discipline, and that includes having the discipline to say no when something or someone isn't worth your energy. Saying no isn't selfish, it's an act of self-respect. It demonstrates that you understand the value of your time and won't allow it to be wasted on people or situations that don't serve your higher purpose. Here's a question to reflect on. If you found out you only had 1 year left to live, how would you spend your time? Would you still give it to those who don't value you, or would you invest it in the people and passions that truly matter? While none of us knows how much time we have left, the Stoics remind us that life's brevity should inspire us to use each moment wisely. Seneca reminds us, life is long if you know how to use it. So, the next time you catch yourself giving too much mental, emotional, or physical energy to someone who doesn't appreciate you, take a step back. Ask yourself, is this the best use of my time? Because once you realize how finite and precious time really is, you'll stop wasting it on people who don't deserve it. Instead, you'll start investing it in yourself and in the relationships that bring true meaning to your life. Rejection. It's a word that carries so much weight, doesn't it? For most of us, being rejected or disregarded feels personal, even painful. Whether it's someone ignoring your efforts, dismissing your ideas, or outright rejecting your presence in their life, the sting is real. But here's the thing, what if rejection itself wasn't inherently negative? What if it wasn't good or bad at all, but simply neutral? This is exactly what the Stoics teach us. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations reminds us, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your judgment of it, and this you can revoke at any moment. In other words, rejection or disregard only has the power to harm you if you permit it to by attaching negative meaning to it. On its own, it's just an event, a neutral occurrence in the vast tapestry of life. Think about this. If someone you've been kind to doesn't value your efforts, does that action inherently diminish your worth? Stoicism teaches us that events don't come with built-in meaning. It's our interpretation of them that gives them power. When we interpret rejection as proof that we're not good enough or that we've failed in some way, we create the pain ourselves. But if we reframe it, if we learn to see rejection as neutral, we can dramatically change how we respond. Imagine you're walking outside on a cloudy day and suddenly it starts raining. Do you take the rain as a personal attack? Do you believe the sky is punishing you or that it's deliberately trying to ruin your day? Of course not. It's just rain. It's indifferent to you. Rejection in many ways works the same way. It's not a reflection of your worth, your character, or your abilities. Often, it's simply the result of someone else's preferences, limitations, or circumstances. It says far more about them than it does about you. Now, let's bring this into a practical, everyday scenario. Think about a time when someone ignored your efforts or rejected you in some way. Maybe a friend stopped responding to your messages, or your boss overlooked your hard work. How did you react? Did you feel hurt, embarrassed, or angry? Did you start questioning yourself? Here's a challenge. Revisit that memory and try to see it with fresh eyes. What if you could strip away the judgment you attached to their actions? What if, instead of interpreting it as a slight or a failure, you could say to yourself, "It simply is"? Try it. Notice how this shift might lighten the emotional weight of the experience. Reframing rejection as neutral doesn't mean you have to ignore or tolerate poor behavior. It's not about letting others walk all over you or pretending everything is fine. Instead, it's about recognizing that someone else's actions don't define you. They're simply external events like rain or sunshine. You can choose to acknowledge them, reflect on them, and then let them go without carrying unnecessary emotional baggage. Here's a reflective exercise for your day-to-day life. The next time you feel rejected or undervalued by someone, pause and ask yourself, what meaning am I attaching to this? Then challenge that narrative. Remind yourself of Marcus Aurelius' wisdom. It is not the thing itself that harms you, but your judgment of it. Reframing rejection as neutral is not a one-time act. It's a skill you build with practice. And over time, you'll find that rejection no longer controls you. It becomes just another passing moment, one that holds no power to disrupt your inner peace. By learning to see rejection through this lens, you reclaim your emotional freedom. You stop allowing other people's actions to dictate your self-worth or happiness. And in doing so, you take another step toward the kind of resilience and self-mastery the Stoics valued above all. So, ask yourself, what would my life feel like if I stopped seeing rejection as harmful? The answer might surprise you. One of the greatest freedoms you can give yourself is detaching from the constant need for others' approval. The Stoics understood this deeply, and they believed it was essential for attaining a state they called Ataraxia or tranquility, a sense of inner peace that isn't shaken by external events or the opinions of others. Epictetus, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." At first glance, this might sound harsh, but his point is clear. Striving to align your life with your own values rather than chasing external validation is what truly leads to fulfillment and peace. Think about how much energy we often waste trying to win approval. whether it's trying to impress co-workers, gain recognition from friends, or meet society's ever-changing standards. When we hinge our sense of self-worth on how others perceive us, we place ourselves in a constant state of vulnerability. Why? Because people's opinions are unpredictable, often shallow, and entirely beyond our control. Even if you get the approval you seek, it's fleeting. The moment someone's opinion shifts, you're back to square one, chasing validation all over again. This exhausting cycle is precisely what the Stoics sought to avoid by focusing on living in accordance with their own principles. To break free from this need for approval, you need to shift your focus inward. Instead of asking, "What do others think of me?" the Stoics would encourage you to ask, "Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I acting with integrity? Am I being the person I aspire to be?" These are the questions that truly matter because they place the focus on what you can control, your own thoughts, choices, and actions. And when you start prioritizing your internal compass over external approval, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel lighter, freer, and more authentically yourself. Let's take a moment to apply this idea to real life. Imagine you're at work and you've just completed a project you're proud of. You've put in the effort, stayed true to your principles, and delivered something that reflects your best. But instead of receiving praise or recognition, your efforts go unnoticed, or worse, they're criticized. It's easy to spiral in that moment, questioning your worth or whether all your hard work was for nothing. But a Stoic would challenge you to see it differently. Did you act with diligence and integrity? Did you give your best effort? If the answer is yes, then that asterisk should be enough. The external recognition or lack thereof is irrelevant. As long as you lived according to your values, you've succeeded on your own terms. Now, this isn't to say you should become indifferent to feedback or stop caring about relationships. The Stoics didn't advocate for cold detachment or isolation. They valued community and mutual respect. But what they understood is that seeking approval as a primary motivator weakens your sense of self. It makes you a prisoner to what others think rather than the master of your own mind. Detaching from approval seeking doesn't mean shutting out the world. It means anchoring your sense of worth in your own character and choices, not in others' opinions. Here's a question to consider. When was the last time you made a decision based purely on what you thought was right, without worrying about how others might perceive it? How did that feel? Compare that to a time when you acted out of fear of judgment or a desire to fit in. Which choice brought you closer to that sense of inner peace the Stoics called Ataraxia Chances are it was the decision rooted in your own principles. Ultimately, detaching from the need for approval is about reclaiming the power you've given away to others. It's about trusting in your own values and recognizing that true contentment doesn't come from external validation, it comes from within. And as Epictetus reminds us, it is impossible for a person to begin to learn what they think they already know. So let go of the need to prove yourself to others. Focus instead on proving yourself to yourself. When you do, you'll discover that tranquility isn't something you find, it's something you create by living authentically. Let's talk about one of the most liberating principles the Stoics offer, the dichotomy of control. This idea, taught by Epictetus and central to Stoic philosophy, is simple yet profound. It urges us to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. And here's the key insight: our energy, focus, and emotional well-being should only be invested in what we can truly control. The rest, we let it go. Epictetus summed it up perfectly when he said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." So what exactly is within our control? According to the Stoics, it's our own actions, thoughts, beliefs, and responses. Everything outside of that, other people's opinions, behaviors, and judgments, is entirely beyond our influence. Yet, so much of the stress, anxiety, and emotional turbulence we experience comes from fixating on these external factors. And when it comes to seeking validation from others, we are placing our sense of worth in something that isn't and never will be within our control. Think about it. When you base your self-esteem on how others perceive you, you're tying your happiness to their ever-changing moods, biases, or circumstances. It's like building a house on quicks, and the foundation is unstable because it depends on something you can't control. Even if you receive the validation you're seeking, it's temporary. People's opinions are unreliable, shaped by their own experiences, assumptions, or even fleeting emotions that may have nothing to do with you. Placing your worth in their hands is not only unnecessary but a recipe for constant disappointment. Now let's see how this principle applies in daily life. Imagine you're giving a presentation at work. You've prepared thoroughly, put your heart into it, and delivered it with confidence. But afterward, a colleague shrugs it off or makes a dismissive comment. Naturally, you might feel hurt or question whether your efforts were good enough. But here's where the dichotomy of control comes in. Was their reaction within your control? No. What was in your control was the effort you put into preparing, the clarity of your delivery, and your professionalism. That's where your focus should stay. By embracing this mindset, you shift the way you engage with the world. Instead of worrying about external outcomes such as applause, praise, or someone else's validation, you focus entirely on what you can control. Did you act in line with your values? Did you give your best effort? If the answer is yes, that should be enough. The Stoics remind us that true freedom comes when we stop attaching ourselves emotionally to things outside of our control. Their reactions, positive or negative, are theirs to own, not yours. Here's a practical way to try this. The next time you find yourself seeking someone's approval, whether it's posting on social media, sharing an idea at work, or even helping a friend, pause and ask yourself, what part of this situation do I control? Focus on your effort, your words, and your intentions. Let the rest unfold as it will, knowing you've done your part. This simple reframing can lighten the emotional burden of relying on others for validation. The Stoics teach us that clinging to external outcomes, like others' opinions, distracts us from achieving true peace of mind. Instead, they invite us to focus entirely on our inner world, our intentions, choices, and actions. And when you begin to live this way, something changes. You no longer feel like a prisoner to others' opinions, constantly seeking their approval or fearing their rejection. Instead, you feel grounded, free, and in control because your worth isn't tied to something external but anchored within yourself. So, as you move forward, remember the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The next time you catch yourself worrying about someone else's validation, remind yourself of the dichotomy of control. Focus on your own efforts and let the rest go. You'll find that not only do you free yourself from unnecessary burdens, but you also begin to live with a deeper sense of resilience, peace, and self-respect. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the concept of *logos*. In simple terms, *logos* refers to the rational, ordered principle that governs the universe, a kind of universal intelligence or logic. But here's the part that makes this truly empowering. The Stoics believe that each of us has our own inner *logos*, a unique spark of this rationality within us. This internal guide is what enables us to think clearly, to act with integrity, and to navigate life with purpose. When we align ourselves with this inner *logos*, we tap into a profound sense of clarity, self-respect, and peace that no external opinion or event can shake. Now you might be wondering, how does this idea of inner *logos* help us stop caring about people who don't value us? The answer lies in understanding where true self-worth comes from. The Stoics teach us that self-worth isn't something we collect from others. It doesn't come from praise, recognition, or the approval of those around us. Instead, it stems from living in alignment with our inner logos. In other words, your worth comes from how faithfully you live according to your own principles, how you make choices that reflect your values, and how you respond to life's challenges with reason and virtue. Let's unpack this further with an example. Imagine you're faced with a situation where someone dismisses your ideas or criticizes you unfairly. The initial instinct might be to react emotionally. Maybe you feel hurt, confused, or even defensive. But if you stop and connect with your inner logos, the perspective shifts. Instead of asking, "Why don't they value me?" or "How can I win their approval?" you ask, "Am I being true to myself in this moment? Am I acting in a way that aligns with my principles and the clear reasoning of my inner guide?" This shift in focus moves you away from seeking external validation and toward anchoring yourself in your own rationality and integrity. Your logos becomes your ultimate compass. It guides your actions, your reactions, and even your thoughts. And the more you align with it, the less dependent you become on the unpredictable opinions or behaviors of others. Their lack of appreciation or understanding no longer defines you because your self-worth is grounded in something much deeper, something that cannot be taken away, your own internal alignment. To go even deeper, think about what happens when you betray your inner logos when you act in ways that conflict with your values or let external pressures override your better judgment. That's often when we feel the most unsettled or dissatisfied with ourselves. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that true fulfillment comes from staying connected to our rational nature, no matter the circumstances. Aligning with your logos means showing up with honesty, kindness, and reason, not because someone else is watching or validating you, but because it's what's right. And when you act in this way, you naturally develop a sense of self-respect that no external opinion can undermine. Picture it like this. Your inner logos is like a lighthouse, always shining a steady beam of clarity and guidance. The crashing waves of other people's opinions, judgments, or rejection might surround you, but they cannot extinguish that light. It's always there, reminding you of what truly matters, your own integrity and the joy of living in harmony with your values. So, the next time you find yourself upset over someone who doesn't value you, take a moment to step back. Ask yourself, am I living according to my principles? Am I acting with reason and virtue? If the answer is yes, then you've already succeeded. Their opinions hold no power over you because your worth is rooted in something far more stable than their fleeting judgments. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." When you align with your inner logos you're no longer chasing validation or fearing rejection. Instead, you're standing firmly in your own truth, guided by the clear light of reason. And that clarity, that self-respect, it's the kind of strength that frees you to live authentically without the need to cling to anyone else's approval. That's the essence of Stoic wisdom, finding everything you need within yourself. Defining your own worth is one of the most empowering things you can do. And the Stoics believed that true worth has nothing to do with how others perceive you. Instead, it's rooted in how virtuously you live. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "It doesn't matter what other people think of you. What matters is what you think of yourself, how you measure your own integrity and character." His insight reminds us that self-worth isn't something external. It's something you create by aligning your life with your own values and principles. The Stoics were clear on this. True worth comes from living a life of virtue. But what does that mean exactly? Virtue to the Stoics wasn't about perfection or lofty moral ideals. It was about striving to embody key principles like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline in your daily actions. It was about doing what is right, not because you seek praise or recognition, but because it's aligned with the kind of person you aspire to be. And here's the beauty of it: these virtues are entirely within your control. No one can take them away from you, and no one else's opinion can diminish them. To shift your perspective toward self-defined worth, start by asking yourself this: what are my core values? What principles truly guide me in life? Maybe it's honesty, kindness, hard work, or perseverance. Perhaps you value growth and learning or being compassionate toward others. Whatever they are, take the time to define them clearly. These values become the foundation of your self-worth, your internal compass that you can turn to whenever external opinions threaten to shake your sense of confidence. Now compare this to how most of us are conditioned to think about worth. Society often teaches us that our value comes from external markers: how successful we are at work, how many people like us, or what material possessions we've accumulated. But these external measures are fleeting and unreliable. What happens if your job title changes or you lose touch with someone whose approval you depended on? If your worth is tied to these things, you'll always be at the mercy of forces beyond your control. The Stoics, however, remind us that self-worth begins and ends with how we live, not with how others respond to us or what we achieve in the external world. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you're in a situation where someone criticizes you unfairly. Maybe it's in a meeting at work, or perhaps it's a close friend misjudging your intentions. The natural reaction might be to feel defensive, hurt, or even to doubt yourself. But instead of spiraling into self-doubt, pause and ask yourself, am I living according to my values right now? Did I act with honesty, kindness, or integrity in this situation? If the answer is yes, then that's where your sense of worth should come from, not from their misunderstanding or misplaced judgment. In that moment, you've upheld your values, and that's something no one else can take away from you. Marcus Aurelius also reminds us of the importance of self-sufficiency when he writes, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look." This is where the Stoics encourage us to direct our energy not toward chasing the approval of others, but toward cultivating our inner lives. When you know who you are and live in alignment with your values, you become unshakable. Other people's opinions may come and go, but they no longer define you because your worth is rooted in something much deeper: your own character. Here's a practical exercise. At the end of each day, reflect on your actions and ask yourself, did I live in line with my values today? Did I act with integrity, wisdom, or kindness? By focusing on your own internal measures, you gradually retrain your mind to stop seeking validation from others. Instead, you learn to trust in your own judgment and to take pride in the person you're becoming. Defining your own worth isn't always easy. It takes discipline, reflection, and the courage to let go of external approval. But when you do, you'll discover something incredible: a deep, unshakable sense of self-respect. And that, as the Stoics knew, is far more valuable than the fleeting opinions of others. So ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? And are you willing to let that answer, not anyone else, define your worth? Now, take a moment to envision this. What would your life look like if you completely let go of the need for approval from people who don't value you? Imagine waking up in the morning and feeling completely untethered from their opinions, no longer worrying about whether they recognize your worth or validate your choices. Imagine making decisions based solely on what feels right to what aligns with your values, instead of second-guessing yourself in the hope of pleasing someone who barely notices your efforts. How much freer would you feel? How much more energy would you have to pour into the things that truly matter? This exercise is at the heart of Stoic detachment. The Stoics believed that clinging to the opinions of others, especially those who don't value or respect us, is like chaining ourselves to an anchor and expecting to soar. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." What he's telling us is that freedom begins in the mind by releasing ourselves from the emotional weight of needing others' approval. Because the truth is, their opinions are nothing more than external noise, a distraction, not a definition of who you are. Imagine how much lighter life would feel if you didn't have to carry the burden of wondering what other people think. Picture yourself walking into a room not with the anxiety of trying to impress others, but with the calm confidence of someone who already knows their worth and doesn't need external validation to confirm it. Think about how much more authentic your conversations would be if you didn't filter your words through the fear of judgment. And think about how much more time and energy you'd have to focus on the relationships and goals that genuinely fulfill you. Let's ground this idea with a practical example. Consider someone you've been trying to win over. Maybe it's a friend, a coworker, or even a family member who just doesn't seem to appreciate you. You've spent hours overanalyzing their words, replaying moments in your head, and trying to figure out what you could do differently to make them see your value. Now, what if you could simply stop? What if you could shift your energy away from seeking their approval and redirect it toward your own growth? Instead of wondering, what do they think of me? Ask yourself, what do I think of myself? Am I proud of how I am showing up in this situation? This change in perspective is liberating. It's not about ignoring others entirely, but about prioritizing your peace and authenticity over their opinions. The Stoics encourage us to recognize that needing approval is a form of self-imposed limitation. Every moment we spend craving validation from someone else, especially from those who don't value us, is a moment we're choosing to give away our power. And it's a choice we don't have to make. Epictetus reminds us, who then is invincible, the one who can govern themselves entirely, who can say, "I am not disturbed by what is outside of me." This is the essence of Stoic liberation, understanding that your worth, your peace, and your happiness are yours to control. They aren't gifts someone else can give you, nor are they privileges someone else can take away. So here's a reflective challenge for you. The next time you find yourself caught up in worrying about what someone thinks of you, pause and ask yourself, what if their approval didn't matter? What if I could move forward confidently, regardless of their opinion? Spend a few moments imagining that reality. How would you act differently? What would you no longer feel the need to do or prove? By envisioning this world, you start to see that you don't need their approval. You never did. Once you let go of that need, you create space for something far more meaningful: freedom. Think about how often we cling to certain relationships or situations simply because they feel familiar or comfortable. Even when those connections are one-sided, unreciprocated, or ultimately draining, we hold on because letting go feels too uncomfortable, too uncertain. The Stoics, however, believed that growth and resilience come when we willingly face discomfort, when we train ourselves to endure what feels difficult so that we're not overly dependent on external comforts, be it material things, relationships, or even validation from others. This practice, known as voluntary discomfort, is one of the most powerful tools in Stoicism for building emotional strength and independence. The concept is simple but profound. By intentionally stepping into situations that make us uncomfortable, we train our minds and emotions to handle life's inevitable challenges with grace and fortitude. Seneca, in his letters, encouraged practicing voluntary discomfort regularly. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough clothing, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition I feared?'" The idea isn't to punish yourself, but to prove to yourself that you can endure discomfort and still be okay. This practice diminishes your fear of hardship because you learn firsthand that you're capable of weathering it. So how does this relate to people who don't value you? Often, our dependence on certain relationships is a form of comfort. We hold on, even when the relationship isn't serving us, because the thought of letting go feels too painful or uncomfortable. But what if you could train yourself to release those connections and embrace the discomfort that comes with it, knowing it's temporary, knowing you'll come out stronger on the other side? This is where voluntary discomfort becomes a practical tool for emotional resilience. Start small. One exercise could be intentionally distancing yourself from someone who doesn't value you. If there's a person in your life who consistently takes more than they give, or whose presence leaves you feeling drained rather than uplifted, practice letting them go gradually. This could mean not initiating contact, limiting the time you spend with them, or even practicing saying no when they make requests that you'd normally agree to out of habit. At first, it might feel uncomfortable or even guilt-inducing, but that's the point. Lean into that discomfort as a form of emotional training. Remind yourself that you're not abandoning them. You're prioritizing your own well-being and teaching yourself that your peace isn't dependent on their presence. Another example could involve reframing your expectations of certain relationships. Maybe there's someone in your life whose appreciation or validation you've been chasing for years. Instead of continuing to invest your energy into trying to earn their approval, practice detachment. Face the discomfort of acknowledging that their validation isn't something you need. Over time, you'll find that the emotional weight of their opinion diminishes, and you'll become more self-reliant in defining your own worth. This practice extends beyond relationships too. The more you engage in voluntary discomfort in various aspects of life, the more resilient you become overall. For example, you might try skipping luxuries you're used to, like taking cold showers instead of warm ones, eating simpler meals, or spending time without your phone or social media. These small, deliberate acts of discomfort remind you that external comforts, whether they're physical or emotional, aren't as essential as we sometimes make them out to be. And this mindset can transform how you approach relationships. It helps you release the fear of losing connections that aren't genuine because you've trained yourself to be comfortable standing on your own. Ultimately, voluntary discomfort isn't about deprivation, it's about preparation. It's about reminding yourself that while discomfort is temporary, the strength and freedom that come from facing it are lasting. By letting go of unreciprocated connections or leaning into moments of emotional discomfort, you prove to yourself that your happiness and self-worth aren't tied to anyone else. And in the process, you build a kind of emotional resilience that allows you to create healthier, more balanced relationships, ones based on mutual respect and genuine connection, rather than fear of letting go. Healthy relationships thrive on reciprocity and balance, a concept the Stoics understood deeply. They believed in giving selflessly without attaching strings or expecting something in return. But they were also practical. They recognized the importance of discerning when a relationship is entirely one-sided. After all, being generous doesn't mean allowing others to constantly take advantage of your kindness. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, beautifully captured this balance when he wrote, "True friendship is tested in adversity, but it is not maintained by one side giving and the other receiving endlessly." Friendship, to be worthwhile, must be reciprocal. Let's unpack this idea through the lens of Stoic wisdom. The Stoics encouraged us to give freely, whether it's our time, love, or effort, because acts of kindness should be rewards in and of themselves. When you give with no expectation of return, you release yourself from the disappointment and bitterness that often come when others don't reciprocate as you hoped. It's an empowering mindset. Your peace isn't tied to how someone else responds. However, there's an important distinction here. Stoicism doesn't obligate you to continue pouring into relationships where the balance is so skewed that it becomes harmful to you. The key is to recognize when someone is taking without the intention of giving back when reciprocity is completely absent, and adjust accordingly. Think about a time when you've invested deeply in a relationship, whether it was with a friend, a partner, or even a colleague. If you've ever felt emotionally drained from constantly giving while the other person offered little or nothing in return, you already know the toll this imbalance can take. The Stoics would advise you to step back and evaluate the dynamic. Are you giving because it aligns with your values and brings you joy? Or are you giving because you feel obligated, because you're hoping to receive something that isn't forthcoming? If genuine reciprocity is missing, it's a sign that it might be time to reassess that connection. To clarify, this isn't about keeping score or demanding an equal exchange for every act of kindness. True reciprocity isn't transactional, it's about mutual respect and effort. It means that both parties in the relationship willingly contribute their care, attention, and presence over time, even if it doesn't happen in perfectly equal measures. Seneca's writings emphasize this point. A worthwhile relationship isn't one where people give equally all the time, but one where both sides are equally invested in maintaining the bond. Let's ground this with an example. Imagine you have a friend who always turns to you for support when they're struggling, and you're happy to help them through difficult times. But when you're the one in need, they're consistently unavailable or uninterested. Over time, this pattern can create resentment, even if you started the relationship with the intention to give freely. The Stoic approach would be to pause and ask yourself, is this friendship nourishing me or is it depleting me? Am I giving because it's aligned with my nature and integrity, or am I giving out of obligation with the secret hope of receiving something in return? If the balance is too far gone, it might be time to redefine the relationship or even let it go. Stoicism teaches us that we shouldn't be afraid to adjust our boundaries when necessary. It's not unkind to protect your energy, it's an act of self-respect. When you build relationships on the foundation of genuine mutual care, not dependency or obligation, you invite healthier and more fulfilling connections into your life. And for those relationships where reciprocity is lacking, it's okay to step back. As Seneca reminds us, associate with those who can make you better and welcome those whom you can improve. The process is mutual, for people learn as they teach. True balance in relationships doesn't mean perfect equality. It means a genuine willingness from both sides to show up, give, and grow together. By cultivating this kind of reciprocity, you ensure that the relationships you nurture align with your values and contribute to your overall well-being. The Stoics were masters at simplifying life's complexities by focusing only on what truly matters. A key part of their philosophy was the idea of the asterisk sphere of concern asterisk, a way of categorizing everything you could worry about into two distinct groups. On the one hand, there are the things within your control, like your thoughts, actions, and choices. On the other, there are the things outside your control, such as other people's opinions, actions, or how they respond to you. Marcus Aurelius explained this beautifully when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This practice of narrowing your attention to what's truly within your control can be life-changing, especially when it comes to dealing with people who don't value you. Let's start by breaking down the asterisk sphere of concern asterisk. Many of us spend a huge amount of energy on things outside our control, worrying about how people perceive us, obsessing over their actions, or trying to change their behavior. The Stoics would tell us that this kind of thinking is not only unproductive but harmful to our inner peace. Why? Because by focusing on things we can't influence, we waste precious time and emotional energy on outcomes that are entirely out of our hands. Instead, they teach us to shrink our sphere of concern, meaning to limit our focus to what is actually within our power and to let the rest go. So how does this relate to people who don't value you? It's simple. Their opinions, their treatment of you, and even their acknowledgement of your worth are all outside your control. You can't force someone to see your value, no matter how much you want them to. And here's where the Stoic approach becomes liberating. Instead of endlessly trying to change their perception, you can consciously move them out of your sphere of concern. Their opinions don't belong there, and once you accept this, you free yourself from the emotional weight of seeking their approval. Imagine for a moment that you're carrying a backpack, and each person's opinion of you is represented by a heavy stone. Over time, your backpack becomes unbearably heavy as you collect more and more stones, some from people who genuinely care about you, but many from those who don't truly value you. The Stoics would remind you that you don't have to carry all those stones. You can choose to take them out of your backpack by narrowing your sphere of concern. Focus on the opinions of those who matter most, those who truly care about your well-being and whose feedback aligns with your values. The rest, leave those behind. Now let's flip this idea into an actionable practice. The next time you find yourself obsessing over someone's lack of appreciation or respect for you, pause and ask yourself two simple questions. Is this within my control? And does this truly matter? More often than not, you'll realize the answer is no to both. When you acknowledge this, you can make a conscious decision to shift your focus back to what is under your control. Your reaction, your boundaries, and what kind of relationships you choose to nurture moving forward. Consider this example. Let's say you've been putting in extra effort to help a friend who continually takes without showing gratitude or reciprocation. Naturally, you may feel frustrated or hurt, but ask yourself, am I responsible for their gratitude or acknowledgement? No, you can't make someone value you. What you can control is whether you continue investing your time and energy into this relationship, or whether you set boundaries and focus on relationships built on mutual respect. Shrinking your sphere of concern means redirecting your energy toward what uplifts you, your actions, your values, and the people who genuinely honor those efforts. By reassessing your sphere of concern, you're not abandoning your humanity or becoming indifferent to others. Instead, you're learning to protect your peace and prioritize your well-being. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you cannot control. When you let go of trying to control how others see you, you create space for a calmer, more focused life, one where your energy goes toward what truly matters. And in that space, you'll find both freedom and strength. Stoicism teaches us a profound yet challenging lesson: to accept people as they are, not as we wish them to be. This doesn't mean that we condone harmful behavior or resign ourselves to being mistreated, but rather we recognize the nature of others and avoid the trap of expecting them to act differently than they're capable of. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often reflected on this in his Meditations. He reminded himself and us that human flaws are inevitable, and that approaching others with understanding and compassion is far more empowering than clinging to resentment. In one of his most famous passages, Marcus writes, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." At first, this might sound like a pessimistic outlook, but it's actually profoundly freeing. When you expect people to have flaws, because we all do, you're no longer surprised or frustrated when their behavior reflects those imperfections. This doesn't mean you have to accept poor treatment or lower your standards, but it does mean you can approach situations with clarity and calm rather than emotional turbulence. Think about how much pain comes from expecting people to act in ways they're either unwilling or unable to. Maybe it's a friend who never follows through on promises, a colleague who constantly criticizes others, or even a loved one who struggles to show appreciation. When we resist accepting their nature, we set ourselves up for disappointment, frustration, and even resentment. We waste energy wishing they were different instead of focusing on what we can control, our own response and boundaries. The Stoics encourage us to see others not as obstacles, but as human beings who are just as imperfect and complex as we are. Marcus Aurelius believed that everyone is acting according to their understanding of the world, even when their actions seem hurtful or misguided. He reminds us, don't be angry at bad people, it's pointless, try to help them instead. Even if you can't, remember, they were made for cooperation. In other words, when you encounter someone's flaws, you can choose to view them with compassion instead of judgment. It doesn't mean you excuse their behavior, but it allows you to let go of the resentment that weighs you down. For example, imagine someone in your life who consistently undervalues you. Maybe they dismiss your ideas, fail to acknowledge your efforts, or show little interest in maintaining the relationship. Instead of resenting them or trying to change them, the Stoic approach would be to accept their nature and adjust your expectations accordingly. You might acknowledge that their behavior stems from their own limitations, perhaps their inability to express appreciation or their preoccupation with their own struggles. By recognizing this, you free yourself from the emotional burden of taking their actions personally. Their behavior is a reflection of their nature, not your worth. This acceptance doesn't mean you continue investing in one-sided relationships. It means you let go of the expectation that they will change and instead make a conscious choice about how you wish to engage with them, or whether to engage at all. In some cases, you might decide to maintain a level of distance or set clear boundaries. In others, you might focus on practicing compassion and understanding while protecting your own well-being. Either way, the key lies in releasing the need to control or fix someone else. By accepting people for who they are, you also create more space for peace in your own life. Resentment can be all-consuming. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The Stoics saw this as unnecessary and counterproductive. Instead, Marcus Aurelius taught us to approach others with the same forgiveness and patience we would hope to receive. He wrote, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" This practice isn't about tolerating toxic behavior or becoming indifferent. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional drain of trying to change others. It's about focusing on what you can control, your perspective, your actions, and your peace of mind. By adopting this Stoic mindset, you not only let go of resentment but also cultivate compassion, patience, and a deeper sense of freedom in your relationships. Accept people for who they are, and you'll find it much easier to focus on what truly matters: your own growth, integrity, and inner peace. One of the most liberating lessons from Stoic philosophy is the idea of not taking things personally. The Stoics teach us that the way others act is almost always a reflection of their character, their beliefs, and their current state of mind, not a measurement of your worth, value, or actions. Epictetus, the great Stoic thinker, puts this into perspective when he says, "What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about these things." In other words, it's not what someone does to you that causes lasting harm, but how you interpret or internalize their behavior. And here's where the magic of Stoicism lies: you have control over how you choose to respond. Let's break this down. Imagine for a moment that someone criticizes you harshly. Maybe it's a friend, a family member, or even a stranger online. Your first instinct might be to feel offended, hurt, or defensive. But why? If you pause and look deeper, you'll often realize that their words have less to do with who you are and more to do with them. Perhaps they're projecting their own insecurities, frustrations, or biases. Their insult or criticism is rooted in their perspective, not some universal truth about you. Epictetus reminds us of this when he says, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." Essentially, their behavior only has power over you if you allow it to. If you don't internalize their actions, they can't rob you of your peace. This mindset doesn't mean you ignore constructive feedback or refuse to engage with others. It's about discerning what to take seriously and what to let go. For example, if someone offers genuine, thoughtful advice about something you could do better, Stoicism encourages you to welcome that growth opportunity. But if their comment is driven by rudeness or an attempt to undermine you, recognizing that their words reflect their character, not yours, allows you to stay grounded. You get to decide whether their behavior deserves a place in your mind or not. Here's a relatable analogy. Think of yourself as a mirror. When people act, they're essentially reflecting who they are in the moment, not who you are. Imagine someone standing in front of the mirror, waving their arms wildly in anger or frustration. Does the mirror change its nature because of their actions? Of course not. The mirror simply reflects what's in front of it without judgment or internalization. The Stoics encourage us to develop a similar mindset. Observe others' behavior. Understand that it's a reflection of them, and choose whether or not to engage emotionally. Consider this scenario. You're at work and a colleague dismisses your ideas in a meeting. It's easy to take that personally, to feel that their dismissal means your ideas aren't valuable or that you're not respected. But when viewed through a Stoic lens, their behavior might have nothing to do with you personally. Perhaps they're having a bad day, or they feel the need to assert dominance in the group, or they're simply not great at collaboration. None of that diminishes the value of your ideas or your abilities. It's a reflection of them. By not internalizing their actions, you can retain your confidence and approach the situation with clarity and calm. This becomes even more powerful when you apply it to personal relationships. Maybe a friend cancels plans at the last minute, or a loved one snaps at you unexpectedly. Instead of immediately blaming yourself or questioning your worth, pause and remember, their actions reflect their state of mind, not yours. Ask yourself, what might they be dealing with that has nothing to do with me? This shift in perspective can dissolve resentment and help you maintain your peace. At its core, not taking things personally is about reclaiming your power. When you understand that others' actions stem from their character, not yours, you free yourself from unnecessary emotional entanglements. You stop letting their behavior dictate your self-esteem or sense of happiness. Epictetus encourages us to focus on what's within our control, our own thoughts, judgments, and actions, and leave the rest to others. After all, their behavior is their responsibility, not yours. The next time you find yourself reacting emotionally to someone's actions, try this. Pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, is this about me or is it about them? More often than not, you'll realize it has nothing to do with you at all. In that moment, you've already begun to cultivate the strength and freedom that comes from not taking things personally. It's a small but powerful shift, and it can transform the way you navigate relationships, setbacks, and even criticism. By embracing this Stoic wisdom, you'll find yourself freer, lighter, and more in control of your emotional state. Imagine if all the energy you've spent worrying about how others perceive you or trying to win over people who don't value you could be redirected towards something far more meaningful, your own growth. The Stoics firmly believed that the path to a fulfilling and tranquil life lies not in controlling others or seeking their approval, but in mastering yourself. Epictetus put it best when he said, no man is free who is not master of himself. In other words, every moment you spend focused on developing your character, your mindset, and your inner peace is a step closer to true freedom. Redirecting your energy towards self-mastery means shifting the focus away from external relationships that drain or distract you and instead turning inward. It's about realizing that your greatest project, the most important investment of your time and effort, is *you*. This doesn't mean abandoning relationships altogether. The Stoics valued community and connection deeply, but they knew that a strong, balanced inner life was the foundation for meaningful relationships. You can't pour into others effectively if your own cup is empty. So, how do we channel this energy constructively? One of the simplest yet most powerful tools is journaling. Marcus Aurelius himself practiced this daily, and his reflections have become a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. His journal wasn't meant for anyone else, it was an honest space for him to examine his thoughts, actions, and beliefs. Through writing, he challenged himself to live in alignment with his values and remind himself of Stoic principles. You can do the same. Take a few minutes each day to reflect on your thoughts and behaviors. Ask yourself, did I let someone else's opinion sway me today? Did I act in line with my principles? What can I do tomorrow to live with more integrity? Over time, this practice becomes a mirror for your inner self, helping you identify areas where you can grow and, importantly, where you need to let go. Meditation is another powerful tool for self-mastery. While it's often associated with mindfulness or Eastern traditions, meditation aligns beautifully with Stoicism. At its core, it's about cultivating awareness and learning to observe your thoughts without becoming entangled in them. A simple Stoic-inspired meditation could involve sitting quietly and reflecting on what is within your control and what isn't. Visualize releasing the things you can't control, like other people's opinions or actions, and focus instead on strengthening what you can: your thoughts, your choices, your responses. Even 5 to 10 minutes of this kind of meditation can help you feel more centered and clear-headed. Another practical way to redirect your energy is to set small, achievable goals for personal development. The Stoics believed in continuous improvement, or the idea that every day is an opportunity to become a better version of yourself. Maybe it's learning a new skill, building healthier habits, or cultivating virtues like patience or gratitude. Each step you take in this direction strengthens your sense of self-worth because it's rooted in your efforts, not in someone else's approval. For example, if you've been pouring energy into someone who doesn't value you, redirect that time into something that nourishes you, like taking a class, developing a hobby, or working toward a personal goal. These actions don't just build self-mastery, they also create a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling, independent of others' opinions. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of gratitude as a practice for redirecting focus inward. Instead of fixating on what you lack or the recognition you didn't receive, pause to appreciate what you already have and who you already are. Each time you practice gratitude, you're training your mind to focus on abundance rather than scarcity. You're reminding yourself that your peace comes from within, not from external validation. This simple shift in perspective is a cornerstone of self-mastery. It keeps you grounded, content, and resilient no matter what's happening around you. Ultimately, redirecting your energy towards self-mastery is about reclaiming your power. It's about realizing that the energy you invest in others who don't value you could be better spent cultivating the kind of life and character that *you* value. By focusing on inner development through practices like journaling, meditation, setting personal goals, and practicing gratitude, you align with the Stoic wisdom that true strength and fulfillment come from within. And as Epictetus reminds us, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Choose instead to value your own growth, and you'll find that the opinions of others naturally lose their grip on your peace of mind. Gratitude is a powerful tool, one that the Stoics believed could transform the way we see and interact with the world. When life feels overwhelming, or when we're consumed by the sting of being undervalued by someone, gratitude serves as a reminder of all the goodness and support that already exists around us. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, emphasized this repeatedly, urging us to focus not on what we lack, but on what we have, and to regularly cherish the people and things in our lives that remain steadfast. He said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." And when it comes to relationships, his wisdom is just as relevant. Rather than fixating on those who don't acknowledge your value, take a step back and reflect on the people who do. Who in your life sticks by you through thick and thin? Who celebrates your successes and supports you in your struggles? These loyal connections, whether they're with friends, family, colleagues, or even a mentor, are treasures that deserve your time and energy. And yet, it's easy to overlook them when we're caught up chasing validation from others who don't reciprocate our efforts. The Stoics would remind us to pause and redirect our focus. Instead of mourning the lack of appreciation from one person, celebrate the loyalty of those who genuinely care. Start by cultivating the habit of gratitude, a practice the Stoics considered essential for a fulfilling life. Each day, take a moment to reflect on the people who consistently add value to your life. Maybe it's the friend who checks in on you without being asked, the mentor who always finds time to guide you, or the family member who goes out of their way to support you. Often, we take these relationships for granted because their loyalty feels constant, almost invisible in its steadiness. But by regularly acknowledging their importance and expressing your gratitude, you not only strengthen those connections, but you also remind yourself of the abundance that already exists in your life. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Stoic gratitude. Write down 3 people in your life who have shown consistent loyalty or kindness. Reflect on specific moments when they've demonstrated their support or care. Then, find a way to nurture those relationships, whether it's sending a thoughtful message, scheduling time to reconnect, or simply expressing your thanks the next time you see them. These small acts of appreciation deepen the bonds you share and shift your focus toward the meaningful connections that truly deserve your attention. Let's look at an example. Imagine a scenario where you've been pouring your energy into impressing a colleague who seems indifferent to your efforts. It's frustrating and draining, and yet their lack of response occupies most of your thoughts. Now shift the perspective. Instead of focusing on that one unresponsive colleague, think about the coworker who always has your back, who supports your ideas in meetings, and who offers encouragement when you need it most. What would happen if you redirected your energy toward that person instead? By expressing gratitude for their support, you not only deepen your connection with them, but you also free yourself from the emotional weight of chasing approval from someone who doesn't deserve it. Seneca also teaches us that gratitude extends beyond simply acknowledging others. It's about living in a way that reflects that appreciation. When we cherish the relationships that bring us joy and security, we naturally nurture them. And by doing so, we create a support system that strengthens us against life's inevitable challenges. This doesn't just benefit others, it benefits you by reinforcing a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. So ask yourself, who in your life has stood by you even when they had nothing to gain? Who reminds you of your worth not through words but through actions? These are the people who deserve your focus and gratitude. By pouring your energy into these loyal connections, you align with Seneca's wisdom, appreciating what you have rather than yearning for what you lack. And in doing so, you'll find that life feels richer, fuller, and far more peaceful. Gratitude isn't just a practice, it's a shift in perspective that helps you let go of what doesn't serve you and embrace the relationships that truly matter. One of the most profound yet practical exercises in Stoic philosophy is that of negative visualization. At first, the name might sound a bit counterintuitive. Why would anyone want to visualize something negative? But this exercise serves a powerful purpose. It helps us cultivate gratitude for what we have while also teaching us to let go of unnecessary attachments, including those to people who don't value us. By intentionally imagining life without certain circumstances, possessions, or even relationships, we prepare ourselves emotionally for loss. And in doing so, we learn to appreciate what truly matters and release what no longer serves us. Let's explore how this works. Negative visualization asks you to consider scenarios where something or someone in your life is no longer present. The Stoics believed that through this mental exercise, we could develop a sense of detachment, not to become cold or indifferent, but to free ourselves from the crippling fear of loss. When it comes to relationships, this practice can be especially powerful if you find yourself overly attached to people who don't recognize your worth. Here's how you can apply this. Take a moment to reflect on a person in your life who doesn't value you as much as you value them. Maybe it's someone whose approval you've been chasing, someone who dismisses your efforts, or a one-sided friendship that feels draining. Now, visualize your life as though that person is no longer part of it. What would that feel like? How would your daily routines, your emotional state, or even your opportunities for growth evolve without their presence? At first, this may feel uncomfortable, as though you're anticipating loss. But as you continue with the exercise, you may notice something surprising. The imagined scenario often feels far less devastating than it might seem at first glance. In many cases, you might discover that their absence doesn't leave as large a void as you thought. It might even feel freeing. Visualizing life without people who don't value you can help you realize just how much space and energy you've been giving them, and how much lighter your life could feel without that weight. It's not about wishing ill on others or hoping they disappear. It's about practicing detachment and shifting your focus to what truly contributes to your well-being. Let's consider an example. Suppose there's a friend who always takes but rarely gives. You might spend a lot of mental energy trying to earn their appreciation or feeling frustrated when they don't reciprocate your efforts. By practicing negative visualization, you imagine what life would be like if they were no longer in it. Perhaps you see yourself with more time for the relationships that uplift you, or maybe you recognize that their absence would remove a source of unnecessary stress. This exercise doesn't mean you immediately cut ties, but it does give you clarity. It helps you approach the relationship with a more balanced mindset, where you no longer cling to the illusion that their presence defines your happiness or worth. Negative visualization also works as a tool for gratitude. When you imagine losing something, you often discover a deeper appreciation for it. This might lead you to nurture relationships with those who do value you rather than fixating on the ones that don't. For instance, visualizing life without a kind, supportive friend can remind you to prioritize that relationship instead of chasing after someone who isn't invested in you. Ultimately, negative visualization is about empowerment. It teaches us that we are capable of enduring loss and that we don't need to hold onto relationships that fail to bring mutual respect or joy. By imagining life without these unbalanced connections, you create emotional space to focus on what truly matters: your growth, your peace, and the relationships that are built on genuine care and reciprocity. And as Seneca reminds us, he who has learned how to die has unlearned how to be a slave. The same applies here. By practicing the mental exercise of letting go, you free yourself from emotional dependency and discover just how resilient you truly are. Criticism is something we all face, whether it's a passing remark from a stranger, feedback from a colleague, or hurtful words from someone close to us. It's tempting to let those words sink in, replaying them in your mind and questioning your worth. But the Stoics offer a way to transform how we approach criticism altogether. Instead of seeing it as a source of pain, they teach us to view it as an opportunity for growth, reflection, and, most importantly, for strengthening our inner resilience. Epictetus, one of the most practical voices in Stoic philosophy, gave us this timeless advice. If someone delivers a harsh word to you, consider first whether what was said is true. If it is, accept it and change. If it is not, dismiss it. This approach is both simple and powerful. It shifts our focus away from emotional reactions and onto rational reflection. Instead of immediately feeling hurt or defensive when criticized, we pause and ask ourselves a question. Does this criticism reveal a truth I need to confront, or is it simply noise? By doing this, we take back control of how we interpret and respond to others' words. Let's break this into two distinct steps. First, the Stoic approach encourages us to evaluate whether the criticism has substance. Imagine a coworker points out that your project could have been more thorough, or a friend comments on how you handled a certain situation. It's natural to feel a twinge of defensiveness in these moments, but instead of reacting emotionally, ask yourself, is there truth in what they're saying? If the answer is yes, then use the criticism as a catalyst for self-improvement. Thank them internally or even externally for helping you recognize an area where you can grow. This reframing not only fosters humility, but also turns what could feel like an attack into an opportunity for positive change. Now, let's consider the second possibility. The criticism isn't valid. Maybe it's exaggerated, misinformed, or delivered out of someone else's frustration or insecurity. In this case, the Stoic response is to let it go. Epictetus reminds us, what is outside my power is nothing to me. Others' words, judgments, or opinions fall squarely outside your control. You can't stop someone from criticizing you, but you can control whether you absorb it. By recognizing that their words are a reflection of their perspective, and not necessarily an accurate reflection of you, you free yourself from their negativity. Picture this: you overhear a colleague saying something dismissive about your work ethic. Your first instinct might be to feel insulted or to craft a mental rebuttal. But what if instead you take a moment to reflect? Perhaps you ask yourself, is there truth in this? If there is, you address it constructively without letting it crush your self-esteem. If not, you acknowledge the comment for what it is, an opinion that holds no power over your inner peace unless you give it permission. In doing so, you remain grounded and unaffected by their negativity. Building resilience to criticism is ultimately about mastering your internal world. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations reminds us, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. These words highlight an essential Stoic truth. Harm doesn't come from what others say, but from how we interpret and internalize their words. When you choose not to see criticism as an attack, it loses its sting. You retain your power by deciding how or if it will affect you. One way to strengthen this resilience in your everyday life is to practice mental rehearsal, another Stoic technique. Before stepping into situations where you might face criticism, like giving a presentation or addressing a difficult topic with a friend, imagine someone offering negative feedback. Picture yourself hearing their words calmly, assessing whether they hold truth, and then responding with reason instead of emotion. This practice can make real-life scenarios feel less intimidating because you've already prepared your mind for them. Criticism is unavoidable, but suffering because of it is not. By embracing the Stoic mindset, you learn to see criticism not as a source of harm, but as an opportunity for growth or a chance to practice letting go. The next time someone's words threaten to shake your confidence, remember Epictetus' wisdom. Check if it's true and can help you improve. If it's not, it's just noise, and you have the power to let it pass by without disturbing your peace. Life can feel incredibly complicated when you're pouring emotional energy into relationships that don't give back what you're putting in. The Stoics teach us that simplicity, both in our external circumstances and in our internal state, is a key to living a peaceful, fulfilled life. When it comes to relationships, this means trimming away the unnecessary complications and focusing on what truly adds value to your life. One of the most effective ways to do this is by simplifying your emotional investments, and that starts with creating healthy boundaries. The Stoics believed in living minimally, not just in terms of material possessions, but also in terms of emotional energy. They recognized that unnecessary attachments and overextended commitments often lead to frustration and unhappiness. Epictetus reminds us, you become what you give your attention to. If your energy is constantly being drained by relationships that lack mutual respect or balance, it's time to pause and reassess. Just as decluttering your physical space brings clarity and calm, simplifying your emotional investments can do the same for your inner world. So how do we begin? A tool that aligns perfectly with Stoic principles is what we could call a relationship audit. Just like reviewing your finances to see where your money is going, a relationship audit involves reviewing where your emotional energy is being spent. Start by reflecting on your connections, friends, family, co-workers, or even casual acquaintances, and ask yourself some key questions. Does this relationship enrich my life or deplete it? Do I feel supported and respected, or do I often feel undervalued and drained? Is there a balance of giving and receiving, or am I always the one putting in the effort? These questions aren't about placing blame, but about clarity, seeing the reality of your relationships for what they are. For instance, think about a friendship where you're always the one reaching out to maintain the connection. When you're going through something difficult, are they equally present for you, or do they disappear until they need something? If it's the latter, it may be worth reassessing how much of your limited emotional energy you're investing in that relationship. This isn't about cutting people off at the first sign of imperfection after all. No relationship is flawless, but rather about recognizing patterns that consistently leave you feeling depleted. Once you've identified relationships that might be draining you, the next step is setting boundaries. The Stoics emphasize the value of moderation and self-restraint, and boundaries are a practical way to apply those principles in your relationships. For example, if there's someone who often takes advantage of your time or kindness, consider limiting how much of yourself you give to them. This could mean saying no to certain requests, limiting the time you spend with them, or redirecting the relationship's focus to healthier, more balanced interactions. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to prioritizing others' needs over your own. But here's the key. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away, they're about creating a framework that protects your emotional energy so you can show up more fully in the relationships that truly matter. As Marcus Aurelius put it, love the hand that fate deals you and play it as your own. In this context, loving the hand you've been dealt means accepting relationships for what they are and adapting your investment accordingly. Simplifying your emotional investments doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop overextending yourself for people who aren't willing or able to meet you halfway. And in doing so, you make space for deeper, more meaningful connections, relationships that align with your values and contribute to your well-being rather than draining it. The beauty of this Stoic approach is its practicality. Whether it's through a relationship audit, setting boundaries, or simply being more mindful about who you give your energy to, each step brings you closer to the simplicity and peace the Stoics cherished. So take a moment today to reflect. Where is your emotional energy going? And is it being spent in ways that truly add value to your life? Simplifying your relationships might just be the key to finding the balance and fulfillment you've been seeking. Have you ever felt completely overwhelmed by someone else's behavior, maybe their lack of appreciation for you, their criticism, or their indifference? These moments can feel all-encompassing, as though the world is closing in and your emotions are pulling you under. But the Stoics offer us a powerful tool to break free from this kind of tunnel vision, the asterisk view from above asterisk. It's a practice that Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, used to reframe his challenges and maintain a sense of clarity and peace amidst the chaos of life. The asterisk view from above asterisk is exactly what it sounds like, a mental exercise where you imagine yourself rising above your current situation, looking at it from a broader perspective. In Asterisk Meditations asterisk, Marcus Aurelius describes this cosmic viewpoint. How small a part of the boundless abyss of time has been allotted to each of us, and how small a part of the whole universal substance, and how small a part of the universal soul. On how small a clod of the whole earth you creep. His words remind us of our place in the vastness of the universe. When you zoom out and view your life as just one piece of an infinite cosmos, the sting of someone else's indifference or criticism suddenly feels far less significant. Imagine this: you're in the middle of a difficult interaction, perhaps feeling hurt or dismissed by someone you care about. Now pause, close your eyes, and visualize yourself rising above the room, then the building, then your neighborhood. Keep soaring higher and higher until you can see your entire city, your country, and then the earth itself floating quietly in space. Think about how small this single interaction looks now, just one moment in your life on a tiny planet spinning amidst billions of stars. In the grand scheme of the universe, a universe that has existed for billions of years and will continue long after we're gone, how much does this one challenging moment really matter? This exercise isn't about dismissing your feelings or pretending that challenges don't affect you. The Stoics weren't asking us to be robots devoid of emotion. Instead, it's about gaining perspective, preventing small, fleeting moments from taking over your mind and distorting your sense of what's truly important. From a cosmic viewpoint, the opinions of someone who doesn't value you lose their power. Their lack of recognition is just one tiny ripple in the vast ocean of existence. Marcus Aurelius frequently used this technique to put his own trials into perspective. As an emperor, he faced enormous challenges, wars, political betrayals, personal losses, yet he looked to the asterisk view from above asterisk as a way to maintain his composure. He wrote, "Look at the swirling chaos of matter around you, the infiniteness of time behind you and ahead, and the scornfulness of this tiny instant." Notice his use of the word tiny. Even for someone like Marcus, who wielded immense power and responsibility, life's difficulties shrank when seen through the lens of cosmic time and space. If the ruler of an empire could find peace by acknowledging the smallness of his problems in the vastness of the universe, surely we can do the same in our daily lives. Beyond calming your mind, the asterisk view from above asterisk offers another gift. It highlights what truly matters. In the context of eternity, a single slight, a fleeting rejection, or a strained relationship pales in comparison to the bigger questions. Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I contributing to something greater than myself? Am I making the most of this precious, finite time I've been given? These are the questions the Stoics encourage us to focus on. From this perspective, the opinions of others or the drama of unreciprocated relationships lose their hold over you. So the next time you find yourself weighed down by the actions or opinions of someone who doesn't value you, try the asterisk view from above asterisk. Rise above the immediate moment and remind yourself of the vastness of the universe and the brevity of life. What seemed monumental just moments ago will likely feel small, even trivial. And in that space of clarity, you'll find the freedom to focus on what truly matters, your own growth, your own purpose, and the timeless perspective that reminds you that, in the grand scheme of things, you're already enough. Acceptance is one of the core tenets of Stoic philosophy, and it's beautifully embodied in the principle of Ammaphati, which translates to love of fate. This concept encourages us not only to accept the things that happen to us, but to actively embrace them as necessary and even beneficial parts of our journey. In the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, then your life will flow well. When applied to relationships, Ammaphati can radically shift the way we perceive those who value us and those who don't. Let's start with a truth that can be hard to accept. Not everyone will value you, and not every connection will fulfill your expectations. There will be relationships where your efforts go unnoticed, where appreciation feels one-sided, or where the bond simply fades despite all you've invested. It's tempting to resist this reality, to fight against it, or to dwell on what could have been. But Ammaphati challenges us to take a different approach. It asks us to not only accept that this is how life unfolds, but to embrace it, to see the beauty and the lessons in it. Think about it this way: what if every relationship, whether positive or painful, is exactly as it's meant to be for your growth? The friendships that lasted, the connections that faded, the people who didn't value you, they're all part of the unique path that has shaped you into who you are. Ammaphati invites us to approach these experiences with gratitude, not resentment. If someone doesn't value you, it's not a reflection of your worth but a part of your fate, a necessary step in guiding you toward people and situations that align more fully with your values and purpose. To illustrate this, imagine you've spent years trying to maintain a relationship with someone who consistently doesn't appreciate your efforts. You've poured your heart into that connection, only to feel overlooked time and time again. It's natural to feel frustrated or even hurt, but Ammaphati encourages you to take a step back and ask, what if this person's role in your life is exactly what it was meant to be? What if their lack of appreciation is teaching you to set boundaries, to honor your worth, or to redirect your energy to people who genuinely value you? By reframing the situation through the lens of fate, you transform what could feel like a loss into a meaningful opportunity for growth. The practice of Ammaphati isn't about pretending everything is perfect or denying the pain of rejection or unreciprocated effort. It's about seeing events and people as part of a larger design that ultimately serves you. Even the challenges have their place. Marcus Aurelius captures this perfectly when he writes, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." In other words, everything that happens, good or bad, can fuel your growth if you let it. The rejection of someone who doesn't value you can become the spark that fuels your self-worth, your independence, and your clarity about what you deserve. Practicing Ammaphati also frees you from the exhausting cycle of resistance. Often, the pain we feel in relationships isn't just about what happened, it's about our resistance to accepting it. We replay conversations, dwell on what we could have done differently, or wish someone would change, but the Stoics remind us reality is what it is. When you embrace Ammaphati, you let go of the need for things to be different. You accept the present as a necessary step toward your future, and in doing so, you reclaim your peace. So how can you begin practicing Ammaphati? Start by reflecting on the relationships in your life that feel unbalanced or unfulfilling. Instead of seeing them as failures or disappointments, try to view them as part of your fate experiences that are shaping you in ways you may not fully understand yet. Ask yourself, what lesson is this teaching me? How is this moment guiding me towards something better? By approaching life in this way, you'll find that even the most challenging relationships hold value, and you'll develop a deeper sense of trust in where your path is leading. At its heart, Ammaphati is about embracing life as it is, not as we wish it to be. When it comes to relationships, this means accepting who values you and who doesn't, and understanding that both play their role in your journey. By leaning into this principle, you'll find freedom in letting go of what you can't control and a profound peace in trusting the process of your life. Stoicism teaches us that our actions should never be dictated by the behavior of others. It's a philosophy rooted in self-mastery, emphasizing that the choices we make reflect our character, not the actions or shortcomings of those around us. One of the most profound lessons from Stoicism is the practice of acting virtuously, regardless of how others treat us. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations captures this beautifully, writing, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine." This quote holds a profound truth. We cannot control how others behave, but we can choose to respond with virtue. For the Stoics, this meant acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline, no matter the circumstances. In essence, someone else's failure to act kindly or respectfully shouldn't pull us away from our commitment to doing good. Their actions reflect their character, while our responses reflect ours. Let's imagine a scenario. Picture a situation where a coworker undermines your efforts in a team project or takes credit for your work. It's natural to feel anger or frustration, and for many of us, the instinct might be to retaliate or withdraw our efforts on future collaborations. But the Stoics would encourage a different approach. Instead of mirroring their poor behavior, ask yourself, what does virtue require of me in this situation? Perhaps it's continuing to contribute your best work, confronting the individual calmly and constructively, or seeking resolution in a way that aligns with your values. By choosing virtue, you remain true to yourself regardless of how others behave. The Stoics understood that acting virtuously isn't always easy. It requires effort and self-discipline, especially when others' actions feel unfair or even hurtful. Yet, they also believed that maintaining your integrity in these moments is the ultimate form of strength. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. In other words, rising above pettiness and negativity by staying grounded in your principles is a far greater triumph than stooping to someone else's level. When we act virtuously, we not only preserve our own peace of mind, but we also set an example for others, something the Stoics considered deeply important. While we can't force others to change, our consistent commitment to doing good can inspire those around us. It might not happen immediately, but over time, people often notice the quiet strength of someone who remains kind, fair, and composed even in the face of adversity. Another layer to this philosophy is the idea that when others fail to act well, it's often due to ignorance rather than malice. Marcus Aurelius reminds us of this when he speaks of wrongdoers as people who cannot tell good from evil. This perspective encourages compassion rather than resentment. It doesn't mean you tolerate mistreatment or allow others to take advantage of you, but it does mean you can approach these situations without internalizing bitterness or allowing their behavior to dictate your own. The beauty of this Stoic principle lies in its simplicity. no matter what others do, the choice to act with virtue is always within your control. Whether someone shows ingratitude, disrespect, or even outright hostility, you have the power to remain steadfast in your values. This doesn't just protect your integrity, it also frees you from the emotional entanglement of reacting to every slight or disappointment. The next time you're faced with someone who fails to meet your expectations, pause and remember Marcus Aurelius' wisdom. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? Then, act in a way that reflects your highest self. By choosing virtue, even when it's difficult, you'll cultivate a sense of inner peace and strength that no one else's actions can disrupt. And that, the Stoics would argue, is the truest form of freedom. So, let's take a moment to recap the 5 Stoic-inspired ways to stop caring about people who don't value you, and more importantly, how these principles guide you toward greater self-mastery and inner peace. First, we talked about understanding what is and isn't in your control. The wisdom of Epictetus reminds us that we can't control others' opinions or actions, but we can control how we respond to them. By focusing only on what's within your power, your thoughts, your choices, your values, you free yourself from the exhausting task of trying to change or control people who simply don't see your worth. Second, we explored the significance of valuing your time. Time is your most precious resource, and wasting it on those who don't reciprocate your energy only robs you of opportunities to invest in relationships and activities that truly matter. By setting boundaries and protecting your time, you reclaim your energy for what brings meaning and fulfillment to your life. Third, we discussed reframing rejection as neutral. The Stoics teach us that events themselves aren't inherently good or bad. It's our judgment of them that creates suffering. When someone dismisses or undervalues you, instead of internalizing it, you can view it as neutral, an external event that doesn't need to define your self-worth. This mindset lightens the emotional burden of rejection and gives you the freedom to move forward. Fourth, we dove into detaching from the need for approval. When you base your self-esteem on your own values and principles rather than the shifting opinions of others, you develop a profound sense of inner freedom. The opinions of people who don't value you lose their grip on your peace of mind because your worth comes from within, not from external validation. Finally, we highlighted the importance of focusing on self-mastery. Redirecting your energy inward toward your own growth and alignment with virtue empowers you to create a fulfilling life independent of how others treat you. By nurturing your inner world, you build a foundation of resilience, clarity, and strength that no external circumstance can shake. At the heart of these practices is a commitment to detachment, not detachment in the sense of closing yourself off, but detachment from the things you cannot control and the people who fail to see your value. This doesn't mean you stop caring entirely. It means you stop allowing others' indifference to dictate your peace of mind. You free yourself from emotional dependence and instead focus on creating a life rooted in self-respect, purpose, and integrity. As we close, I want to leave you with a quote from Marcus Aurelius that embodies everything we've talked about today. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. Your worth, your happiness, and your freedom are yours to control, no matter what others say or do. The more you align with your own principles and let go of what doesn't serve you, the closer you get to true inner peace. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 5 Stoic principles resonated with you the most? How do you plan to shift your focus to what truly matters in your life? Drop a comment below. I'd love to know your thoughts and continue the conversation. And if you have questions or want to explore Stoicism further, let's dive deeper together. Thank you for watching, and remember,